We are at VCA Hawthorne Animal Hospital right here in Vernon Hills along Route 45. And we're here to find out about to get reminders on some pet care things in general, things we should do, and also to talk specifically about an illness that's been hitting some of our neighborhood dogs called blastoma or
Blastomycosis.
Blastomycosis. We want to talk about that specifically, so we want you to hear what we've got to say about that. We're with Dr. Jim Jorgensen. He's our vet right here at Hawthorne Animal Hospital. Thanks for taking time to talk with us.
Thank you. Very happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to be down here again. Before we get started talking about the health of our pets, let's talk a little bit about your operation here. You guys have been in Vernon Hills for quite a while.
Since 1977. Actually, we opened on July 13th, which was just a day ago. In 1977, been here for 32 years, and I've had a variety of veterinarians with me during that time. Right now we have 3 full-time veterinarians here and 2 part-time. Do mostly the traditional dog and cat treatment, a little bit of exotics. We have one of our doctors, Dr. Krauser, has an interest in Eastern medicines, herbal medications, massage, acupuncture, so she's beginning to bring some of that in for us also. Do most of the standard surgeries, just the typical things that you would expect at most animal hospitals.
Well, and in those years you've been here, I think you've met just an awful lot of the pets around town. I think just about everybody knows who you are. So.
I think we have, and it's usually, you go out somewhere to a store or a restaurant and somebody comes up, oh, I know you, I know you. And a lot of times I remember their pet, but I may not remember them.
And I think the pets remember too. I think, now when we talk about what we've got going on today, can you give me the name of that illness again, because I kind of bungled it up.
Yeah, the illness that people have been concerned about lately is called blastomycosis. Mm-hmm. It is a fungal disease. The fungal organism is present in the soil throughout most of the Midwest, especially concentrated along riverbeds. That it tends to have a higher incidence then. And there has been a higher than usual number of cases of blastomycosis this year. This spring, we've probably seen half a dozen or more cases here, and when we talk to other practitioners in the area, they report the same thing. This is not unusual. This disease tends to be a cyclic nature. So I've done this for 40 years, and about every 5 or 6 years, we tend to get a larger outbreak of it. And then we might only see 1 or 2 cases a year, and then all of a sudden one year we'll see a dozen. I think it's a combination of just the right weather, moisture, soil conditions that allow this fungal organism to be present in larger amounts and to infect more dogs than in a typical year. Mm-hmm. So it's not unusual to see a cycle like this with a year that has more cases than usual.
Okay, so we're in kind of a bad cycle right now.
Unfortunately, this year we are, yes.
Okay,
yes.
And so when we talk about this fungal organism, the dogs are inhaling it, so what are the sorts of things that you're seeing or that we should be watching for? Is there anything we can watch for?
The disease can be tricky. It can take several presentations. By far the most common is respiratory, and it can just seem like your dog has a bad cough or a bad cold. A lot of times that's the most common starting symptoms. It likes to go in and attack bone tissues, so the initial observation might be lameness. Mm-hmm. It can go into the eyes, into the skin. It can affect a variety of numbers, but the respiratory form is by far the most common. It tends to occur in dogs that are outside more, that play in the dirt, that dig in the dirt, that roll around, that go to dog parks, things like that, because they're the ones that are more likely to stir up the organism and be exposed to it. Not that it's impossible that the little backyard poodle gets this, but it's far more common in dogs that are outdoors and active. Mm-hmm.
So if we see something that we are concerned about, like if we see that our dog has a cold or something that's not going away, or some of these, when you said eyes, is it like just pussiness? Or?
Yeah, it would start out like swollen, sensitive, eye discharge, those sort of things. And at first, that's where this disease is a problem, because at first it can look like just a common cold or a common type of conjunctivitis, or just a little sore leg. So it can look like those things initially. The trick is that if your pet if you take your pet to see a veterinarian and treatment is prescribed and they don't respond real well within a few days, then you need to sound the alarm and say, you know what, I'm concerned that this might be something more serious. And, you know, for people to not panic, most of the dogs that are coughing and runny nose are going to be a cold or an allergy. They're not going to be blastomycosis.
Well, and as you said, all of the vets are kind of on alert for it right now, so
Right.
that makes it a little easier. I understand from the people in the community who have been researching this and involved in this, it's kind of a tricky thing to treat.
It can be. It can be a real prolonged treatment. It usually takes at least 3 or 4 months on medication, pills to get rid of it. And unfortunately, the disease can reoccur. So it's possible to treat a dog, get negative test results, everything seems fine, and 2 years later for it to flare up again, for it to reoccur in this dog.
Okay. So really what you're saying is just to be on the lookout, be aware, and have that in the back of your mind, but not to panic.
I would say yes, and to remember that most of these illnesses that dogs have aren't going to be blastomycosis, but it is something to keep in mind, especially this year.
Okay. Well, hopefully the cycle will kind of right itself and we'll get back to some more normal times. But okay.
Right.
So, and we've got some other things to talk about too, because I know particularly when the economy is a little bit off, sometimes we neglect our own health care as well as that of our pets. So I know that you as a vet you'd like us to do some minimal, you know, bottom line things that we should keep remembering to do.
Right. I think it's good to prioritize your pet dollars to decide what's most important. And I think that in order of importance is their yearly exam and rabies vaccine. I think that's a must. The distemper boosters, especially if your pets are outside and might be exposed to other animals. I think flea and tick prevention and heartworm prevention are very important because they're more common. Going down the list, spaying and neutering is always a good idea and prevents a lot of problems further down the road. Feeding a good proper diet. I know it's sometimes tempting to economize by going and buying a generic food, but some of those are not quite as good for our pets. So it is a matter of prioritizing, and maybe a little, some of the funds for the pet, maybe redirect to some of the more important things.
And when you talk about like flea and tick or even heartworm, I know that's a monthly thing that you do. Are you saying to do that all year round, or how should that be done?
Well, the way we approach it, the monthly pills that control heartworm disease also control roundworm and hookworm. And those can spread all year round, and it's important to remember that people can be exposed to roundworm and hookworm from their pets. So we really want to keep that under control. So those monthly pills, we advise those all year round. The flea and tick preventives, which for the most part are spot on, they're liquid medicines that are applied once a month, those we generally tell people to use from approximately April until November in this area.
In this area,
Right.
okay. Oh, and one more thing. I know you had given us the best skunk smell de-smeller, and it was, are you still using the hydrogen peroxide and the baking soda?
We're still using that formula. I can't reproduce it now, but anybody's welcome to call and get it. And as good as that is, very few skunk odor eliminators work in one time. They oftentimes require several treatments before you're comfortable being with your pet sitting on your lap again.
Very good. And I know, unfortunately, we had to use that at our house, and it was good. It's like the baking soda peroxide, a little dish soap, and wow, that was one of the best ones out there. So that was one of our favorite update shows, to tell you the truth. That was when we were having a big skunk cycle. So,
Okay.
well, thank you so much for taking the time. If you want to know more or if you have questions about your pet, Dr. Jorgensen and his team are available. Just give them a call or check online. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are you hungry? Well, if you are not hungry as we start this segment, I guarantee you will be by the time we finish, because we are at one of Vernon Hill's favorite restaurants, Tsukasa of Tokyo, which is at 561 North Milwaukee Avenue, just on the east side of Milwaukee. We are with manager Jeff Sargent to let us know a little bit about the background on this favorite restaurant here in town. Thanks for joining us, Jeff.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And it's another busy day here at Tsukasa, and you've got just a great crowd that's been following you for really years. How long has Tsukasa been around?
Coming up this November will be 20 years.
Yeah, very nice. And now you're in a beautiful building here that's kind of in behind the old Circuit City area on the east side of Milwaukee. Beautiful freestanding building, but you haven't been in this one that long.
No, actually, our old location wasn't far away across the street where they were there about 16 years. We've been here just over 3 years, and we love it. This one is much bigger, and we have much more seating, a full sushi bar, so it's really great. We love it.
Yeah, it is great. Now tell us, that's a long time to be in Vernon Hills, because in Vernon Hills years, it's kind of a young community. So who's the owner here, and how did this ever come to be?
The owner, his name is Takeyoshi Kaneko, the Kaneko family, and they're Japanese, obviously, and he started the business 20 years ago. He used to work for another restaurant, and he decided to go out on his own, and here we are, almost 20 years later of